Nano Machine. By Hanjung Weolya. Chapter 19, You Brought It On Yourself, Part 1. The sky began to brighten up and the heavy fog came down on the training ground. One person was sprinting across the ground with their running skill. It was Submeng the Crazy Blade. He had jumped out from the medical room from the main building and was escaping the premise. His martial arts skill was so high that the staff or guards couldn't sense him if he tried to hide. However, there were ones who were watching them from the roof. It was a middle-aged man with long red hair and a man with a weird mask on his face. It was Left Guardian Li Hamming and the Great Guardian Mara Kim. That rat. The Right Guardian is leaving. Good work for letting him be. Well, it's an order. At least I won't have to see him sneaking around under my nose anymore. They knew that Submeng had snuck into the medical room all along, but they allowed him to continue. I guess I'll have to put guards on the second floor again. The second floor was also loosely guarded because of this. It was done on purpose so that Submeng could freely enter and train Yoan. I'll be on my way then. Mara Kim tried to leave and Hamming asked, why is he looking after the seventh prince like this? Allowing Submeng to teach Yoan meant that Li Hamming had broken the rules of the academy himself when he was the chief. If it wasn't for the order directly from the Lord, he would have declined to do it. Mara Kim stopped and answered shortly. It is to be fair. Heh, so I guess every child is dear to him? Hamming shook his head. Don't question his will. Mara Kim then disappeared from the roof. I can't even catch him if he really doesn't want me to. Mara Kim, whose nickname was Wind God, had a fast running skill where even Li Hamming couldn't keep up with him. He frowned and mumbled, it was only 14 days, will there even be a difference? Even if Yoan had learned from Submeng, it was only 2 weeks. As the morning session started, Yoan was still in bed. Baek Jongmeng looked at him weirdly. Yoan always woke up earlier even before he came to work, but he was still asleep. Well, it's his last day to get a good rest. From what he heard, Jongmeng knew that Yoan's group had Chun Yukiam, another heir from the loyal clan. This meant that Yoan would have a hard time immediately if he returned. Jongmeng thought Yoan would need at least a moment of peace and covered his bed with the curtain and returned to his desk. Unlike Jongmeng's thoughts, however, Yoan's body was going through heavy reconstruction. Estimated time needed for completion, 1 hour. Current progress, 80% muscle restructure complete, 75% joint reform complete. Millions of nanomachines inside Chun Yoan worked to change his body shape to allow him to perform the butterfly blade dance skill. He had started right after Submeng left, but it still wasn't done yet. 6 hours? That takes too long. It is the estimated time required to change the user's body to fit target Submeng's movement. Chun Yoan was shocked, but it was understandable. And that's why Yoan had to stay in bed the entire morning. 1 more hour passed. Process complete. Yoan then woke up from his anesthesia and got up, but he immediately vomited on the ground. Yoaf! His entire body shuddered as it was overloaded from going through the heavy change and anesthesia. It was normal to have an adverse reaction from reforming his body to that of a well-experienced warrior. What's going on? Baek Jongmeng was nodding off on his desk, but he got up and came running. He patted Yoan's back and got him back into bed. When Yoan fell asleep this time, Jongmeng checked his pulse and he was shocked. What's going on? His pulse is as if he went through some heavy exercise. This heart rate hard to believe, especially for someone who had been sleeping. And as Yoan was asleep, the nano machine was moving on to the next step to calm Yoan's state. Stabilizing user's reaction to the body change. Soon after Jongmeng began feeling the pulse, it calmed down. Yoan was now sleeping peacefully. What is going on? Jongmeng couldn't understand what had happened. And after an hour, a little bit before lunch was over, Yoan opened his eyes. He got up with excitement and clenched his fist. He knew that the power he can put into his fist was very different. This showed how much training Submeng had gone through. If Submeng realizes that Yoan had acquired his body in just 6 hours, he would be shocked. Dr. Beck? He didn't sense anyone inside the room, but just called out to check. The doctor was out on lunch, so Yoan got up and readied himself to practice the blade skill. He didn't have a blade, but pretended his hand was the blade. His body moved quickly and his hand slashed through the air. It was so quick that he was as fast as Submeng himself. Good. Yoan became excited and tried to move on to the second formation, but he heard someone walking down the corridor and stopped. Oh. He didn't realize this, but his senses had also gotten more sensitive with his body. He mumbled as he looked at his palm, I'm prepared. Huh? Prepared for what? When did you wake up? The doctor came in and spoke to Yoan, who was standing in the middle of the room. Yoan became embarrassed and replied, prepared to go back to the academy. Doctor checked Yoan's pulse again and declared that he was now healed and was free to leave. Yoan then clothed himself with the martial arts uniform and took the tag with the red number 7 on it. Baek Jongmang sighed, "I'll be so bored without you." Unlike his expectation of seeing many patients, his room was empty. Yoan smiled. "You'll get a lot soon." There was an underlying meaning behind that, but Jongmang just figured it would be good if he received more patients and answered, "Yeah? I hope so." "No, I guess it's better if there are no patients." "Thank you, doctor." "Yeah, good luck." If the doctor didn't let it slide that Submang was teaching Yoan, it would have been troublesome. Yoan was very thankful for the doctor and decided to send him some patients. At the training ground, all the students were gathered in a group. Everyone in the 8th group turned to one direction. It was Chun Yoan who finally came back after 2 weeks. Finally here. The group leader, Chun Mukiam, cracked an evil smile. Chun Yoan found instructor Imping and walked up to him. "You're here." "Yes, instructor." "Are you all fine now?" "Yes, sir." "That is good. I taught you already, but I'm sure you know where your place is?" Imping didn't really seem all that excited to see Yoan back. The formation battle required every individual to not fail for it to work well, and while Yoan's spot was the least important, it still was concerning. "Yes, sir." "Good. Then go take your place." Imping pointed to the location. Yoan knew that he wouldn't be welcomed for missing 2 weeks already, so he quickly took up the sword and shield and got to his location. Today was the real sword practice day that only came once a week. Mukiam tried to growl at Yoan, who was running toward him. "You finally here? You cowardly chicken bas." But Yoan ignored him and simply ran past him. Mukiam became dumbfounded, but something was off. Yoan didn't seem to fear him at all. "What is it?" His look, it doesn't. Instead, it looked like Yoan's eyes were telling Mukiam to challenge him to a fight. Chapter 20, You Brought It On Yourself, Part 2. Let's begin. Keep your distance. If there are any more accidents, I'll expel you from the academy. Motto. The training began. Imping, however, was only focused on one person. The other students had 2 weeks of training together, but Chun Yoan did not have any. It was apparent he would make mistakes. And the problem regarding today's practice was that they were using real swords. There was an accident in the last sword practice, so Imping was nervous. Damn it. Why am I stuck with him? No one wanted to take Chun Yoan since he was taken to the medical room, and Imping offered to take the lottery. Unfortunately, he ended up taking the boy into his group. Please don't make any mistakes. You don't have much to do anyway. At least Yoan's spot required the least amount of work. Imping then flashed the red flag that called for the first formation change. Students quickly took the proper steps to move into place. The ones who needed to move the most were in the front row, while the group leader in the middle needed to lead the others nicely. Good. Imping shouted. Everyone did it perfectly without any mistakes. Mukiam was arrogant and violent, but he managed his group well and made them follow his orders. And as for Chun Yoan, he was doing quite well. Unlike the other students who had a hard time following the formation in the beginning, Chun Yoan was following along quite nicely. Is he following what the others are doing? Imping was curious, but he just figured Yoan was copying the others well. The problem with this formation was that the students had to maintain the formation without moving. Keep the formation. Students had to hold up their swords and shields and stand still for quite some time. This required muscle strength. Everyone was holding on, but the weaker students' arms began to shake. If the shield shook and clashed with another shield, there would a sound. It wasn't that loud when it was between wooden shields, but the clang between the iron shields was very clear. Get it together. Don't even think about beating other groups with such endurance. Imping shouted, and the students gritted their teeth. Imping was angry that there were still students who still couldn't keep up even after 2 weeks. Chun Yoan, who was known to have zero internal energy, probably wouldn't be able to hold up. Imping turned to him. What? Why is he still okay? Chun Yoan was looking ahead without any sign of exhaustion. His sword and shield did not move an inch. Did he really just return from the medical room? Imping had seen that himself, so that was obvious. It was astonishing to see Yoan keeping up with the group so well. Imping's view of Yoan began to change. And when half of the students began to quiver, Imping flashed the yellow flag. The students then moved around to change formations. The second formation was a semicircle around the target so that the enemy to have nowhere to flee. Yes. Slowly, the students took a step forward to pressure the enemy. No one made any mistakes and they closed in without failure. Good. Very good. Imping shouted and Mukium became surprised. This wasn't what he expected. How come he isn't making any mistakes at all? Yoan should have made some mistakes already, yet Imping didn't seem to raise any questions. Instead, he was applauding the group for the good formation, which meant that no one had made any mistakes. Yoan was in the back so Mukium couldn't see him in the first formation, but now he could see him. What? Yoan looked fine. This formation was harder to maintain since they had to keep swinging the sword from top to bottom, but Yoan didn't even look tired. Did he really not learn any martial arts? Jaeyun stood close to Yoan but even his right arm was shaking. It was hard to believe, especially when Jaeyun was from one of the high-ranking clans. Damn peasant. I won't let you take all the glory. He then thought he should make Yoan take the shame. Mukium sent a telepathic message to Jaeyun. If you hear me, nod. Jaeyun became surprised, but he kept his cool and nodded slightly. Sending messages required at least 30 years of internal energy or more. At the third formation, move on my command. Mukium sent the words to Jaeyun who smiled and nodded in response. After a while, Imping flashed the blue flag for the third formation. This was the hardest one as the shields had to be stacked together and the swords were thrust in between them to create a sturdy defensive line. This is easy. Yoan had learned all kinds of formations through Nano simulations, so following it was easy. The other students were careful about pushing the sword through to not stab the person in front. Be careful, but also be quick. Do it. The formation change became slower and Imping shouted angrily. But soon, the formation was complete. Chun Yoan was in the middle of the shields, but the student who had to put the sword through from behind was Jaeyun. All that was left for them to do now was to hold their positions. I see your butt. Jaeyun smiled and raised his leg. He then focused internal energy to kick Yoan to make him fall. Peasants are suited for crawling on the ground. He couldn't make a sound, so he placed his foot on Yoan's butt. Yoan then looked back at the feeling of the shoes on his butt and he moved his eyes up to see Jaeyun. What? How dare you? Jaeyun didn't like Yoan glaring at him coldly, so it made him angrily send more powerful internal energy to kick him. Suddenly, ugh! Yoan's butt was covered with a barrier, throwing Jaeyun toward the back. Jaeyun rolled on the ground and slumped down. He couldn't understand what just happened. It was internal energy from his butt. It was much stronger than his energy. As he was on the ground, someone came up to him and frowned angrily. You again? It was Imping. He knew him since Jaeyun was the one who stabbed the 23rd cadet. He was shocked and tried to get up. However, pain shot up from his foot and he couldn't stand. It was the aftermath of being thrown off from the internal energy reaction. Jaeyun could barely stand and he saw Chun Yoan smirking behind Imping. He bit his lips in rage, but Imping got even angrier and reached for his black club on his waist. Biting your lip? Oh, so are you angry at your instructor now? Huh? And no. It's not that, I was just, his butt. But? You must be going mad. Ugh! Imping quickly took out his club and plunged it into Jaeyun's stomach. Jaeyun grabbed his stomach and fell to the ground. Imping whispered to him, you will lose free time for 3 days. Until you sleep, you will have special training with myself, personally. And no. Instructor. Jaeyun tried to explain and Imping gestured on swinging his club again. Jaeyun quickly answered, motto. Students of the 8th group grinned. Jaeyun was Mukium's crony and they were glad that he was being punished. After all, he had done some bad things to the group. Then they heard someone grinding his teeth. Chun Mukium was furious about his failed plan. Chun, Yeo, 1. Chapter 21, You Brought It On Yourself, Part 3. As the day went on, students of the 8th group had to deal with 2 major figures cautiously. Chun Mukium from the Loyal clan was furiously focusing on Chun Yoan, and that made it awkward for everyone because Yoan ignoring it. And it wasn't only him who felt the tension. The left guardian, Lee Hemming, was also watching them. 2 candidates for the heir in the same group, interesting. He didn't come out to watch the training, he was here today to see Chun Yoan. The 8th group was performing as expected since it was the only group with 2 black tagged students. The only unexpected thing was Chun Yoan's internal energy. He has more than what I expected him to have. Chun Yoan had nothing just 2 weeks ago, but it was weird that he had become more powerful than Jaeyun, a member of the Loyal clan. He knew Submeng had taught him, but even then the internal energy was inexplicable. With the black dragon ball, he should have close to 20 or barely 30 years worth of internal energy, but the energy reflection that Chun Yowon released on Jaeyoon meant that he had over 30 years worth of internal energy. Even if Submang helped Yowon absorb the ball, that was too much. Did he absorb all the energy from the ball? Then it's his own talent, not that drunkard who helped him. So does have the blood then? Hamming didn't think Submang had taught him well, so he then got up and left the area. When TE afternoon practice was over, all the students crowded into the large cafeteria to eat dinner together. Chun Yowon welcomed this as he had been eating rice soup for 2 weeks. The second stage required teamwork and thus they were also required to eat together. Oh, it's chicken. Chicken meat marinated with soy sauce was placed on the table. One of the perks of being a student was that they were provided an unlimited amount of food. As the students calmly waited with their chopsticks placed on the table, one of the instructors shouted, "You may eat." Motto! The students replied loudly and began gorging down the food. Chun Yowon smiled at the taste of chicken meat. He was sick and tired of 2 weeks of rice soup, and as he ate, he felt Chun Yukim glaring at him the entire time. He wasn't sure why the loyal clan hated him so much. "You better eat up now since you won't be eating well starting tomorrow." Chun Yowon also had a deep hatred rooted within him toward the 6 clans. His anger still gushed out of him whenever he thought of his mother who was poisoned to death. "You dare trample on the weak? Now I will trample on you." He had to bow because he was weak before, but it was different now. When dinner time was over, a bell rang and everyone stopped to place their chopsticks on the bowls. Chun Yowon also glanced at the others and copied them to wait. "Dinner is finished." Motto! Students shouted in response and began leaving the cafeteria in lines. As they gathered back on the training ground in lines, Instructor Imping dismissed his 8th group. "You are dismissed for today. Everyone except for the 80th cadet, you are dismissed." Dismissed. Everyone left other than Jaeyoon, who frowned as he waited. Chun Yowon scoffed at Jaeyoon, who followed Instructor Imping and headed for the dorm. The dorm building was on the left side of the main building. It was divided into 5 sections, and each section had 2 floors. The lower floor was for the boys and the upper floor was for the girls. There was a total of 10 rooms on each floor, and each room had a maximum of 20 beds. Therefore, each group could take 1 room to sleep in. That was how everything was divided until the 3rd section, and at the beginning of the 4th section, everyone got their own personal rooms after passing the 3rd test. The 5th section was where the instructors lived. Chun Yowon was in room number 8. Hey, where do you think you're going?" An annoying voice came from behind as Chun Yowon tried to enter the room. He didn't hear the voice directly, but he was able to guess who it was. As he turned, Chun Mukium was glaring him with his arms crossed. Behind him were 6 cadets who acted like his cronies within the 8th group. Does he want to be on top of everyone anywhere he goes? All the princes and princesses of the 6 clans were known for being raised with the utmost care and respect. They never had to do anything on their own as they always had servants. For example, Chun Wonryu, the princess of the Lust clan, did the same thing. She was the group leader, but when group time was over and it was free period, she still had about 10 cadets following her like her subjects. Students soon gathered as they saw the rumored 7th prince having a standoff with Chun Mukium of the loyal clan. I'll show you. Mukium liked this situation as he wanted to embarrass Yowon in front of everyone. Peasant boy. Was it nice to be locked up in the medical room like a coward? Chun Yowon's eyes turned cold. Mukium liked how Yowon was triggered by his choice of words and continued, "Why? You don't like that word? Are you talking ill of the Lord? What? If I am a peasant, you must be mean that the Lord is a peasant." Mukium then had a dumbfounded expression on his face. He was only thinking of Yowon's mother, but when Yowon mentioned the Lord, his words got stuck in his throat. "Are you so noble that you can even talk poorly of the Lord himself?" "I never said." All of the students here were loyal to the Lord. Whether they were a member of the 6 clans or children of the Lord, they had to choose their words wisely. The students around them were silent. The loyal clansmen are idiots. Chun Wonryu scoffed as she watched. It was foolish to see him getting wordplayed by a boy like Chun Yowon. Fool. Still clinging on to the peasant boy? And Chun Kungwon, who was from the Sword clan, also shook his head while he stopped to see what was going on. Ugh! Chun Mukium's face turned red. He was going to embarrass Yowon, but he was getting embarrassed instead. "You bastard. I will bust your face with." Ugh! Everyone turned silent. Yowan's fist struck Mukiem's face before he could even finish, and blood gushed out from Mukiem's nose. With what? What were you trying to say? Aya. Mukiem then tried to unleash the Loyal clan's martial arts, starting with the Loyal Demon Fist formation, but Chun Yowan began running. Everyone who was watching never thought that Yowan would attempt to flee. Arg! Get him! Why yes, sir! Students who were behind Mukiem began to run toward Yowan, who was running toward the forest behind the dorm building. Mukiem also used his running skill to follow. And unlike the other students who were watching excitedly, Chun Wonryu and Chun Kungwon looked at Yowan as if he were weird. The 6 students who followed Yowan were shocked. They knew Yowan did not have any internal energy, but they still couldn't catch up to him. Why is he so fast? They couldn't get him, but the Yowan wasn't getting away either. The 203rd cadet then thought, is he luring us? He thought for a second as Yowan seemed to be maintaining a certain distance while running. What are you doing? Huh? Mukiem swept the blood from his nose and shot past them. He had to catch Yowan and destroy his bones so that he could feel better. Yowan glanced back and stopped. Damn, bastard. Are you done running? Mukiem clenched his fist and walked up. Yowan answered with a smirk, running? Ha, I brought you here. What? I don't want the others to see it yet. And with that, Yowan's body bounced like a spring and he struck Mukiem down with his palm. It was almost an ambush, but Mukiem was ready with his internal energy all over his body. Thus, Mukiem brought up his 2 fists and blocked Yowan's palm. Mukiem was pushed back 2 steps, but his eyes shook with shock. How did you learn such martial arts? He didn't think about any of the details until now, but Chun Mukiem was now shocked to see the power behind Yowan's internal energy attack. Chapter 22, You Brought It On Yourself, Part 4. Chun Yowan's attack was not a light one. It was so powerful that Chun Mukiem had defended with 7 levels of energy, but he was still pushed back 2 steps. His power is not weak. Mukiem thought Yowan was a piece of cake, but it was not as he had expected. Now is the time. Chun Yowan then unleashed the second formation of the butterfly blade dance. A quick attack of the blade was completed through the powerful spinning move originally made to defend, but it also proved to be effective when in close range as an attack. He didn't have any weapons in his hands, but he wielded internal energy in his right hand to make it work like a blade. Prince, be careful! One of the boys out of the 6 students shouted as they got down. Mukiem used his running skill to run 3 steps back to dodge the attack. He dodged it? Yowan became surprised as he thought that this was going to be the final blow. Mukiem then jumped out and attacked Yowan's chest. It was the 3rd formation of the Loyal Demon Fist. Ugh! He had taken a strike from the counterattack, but he dodged the 2nd attack by pulling his upper body back. However, that wasn't the end. Mukiem then jabbed Yowan's right shoulder with his elbow. Yowan quickly brought his wrist up to defend, but the attack from the elbow had more power. Yowan was pushed back about 4 steps. I still lack internal energy. Mukiem had entered the academy with 20 years worth of energy, and with the Black Dragon Ball, he increased the amount of energy he had. But I can take it. Mukiem had taken many kinds of medicines since he was young, so his absorption rate of the Black Dragon Ball wasn't as high. Moreover, his quick temper also made him absorb less. I should give him no time to counter it. Yowan then unleashed agile blade attacks and his hand chop left a trace that looked like a butterfly flying through in the air as it attacked Mukiem's right shoulder. How can he use such martial arts? The 6 students blankly watched Yowan. They knew he had acquired one of the finest martial arts just by looking at it. If they knew it was the butterfly blade dance that Submang used, they would have been so shocked. You are above my expectations. Mukiem spoke in astonishment and dodged Yowan's attack while getting closer. His fist skills were powerful, but he also focused on being flexible, which allowed him to move flexibly, and Mukiem kicked Yowan's left side. Ugh! Yowan was thrown to the right from the kick. He had learned about basic martial arts, but he had not learned a landing skill yet. So, he had to roll on the ground before crudely getting up. I didn't expect a kick. He was shocked. The kick got him on the head, so it made him feel dizzy. When he couldn't find his balance, Mukiem felt relieved. I was surprised at such fine blade art, but you still are a newbie. Yowan frowned. Mukiem had found out that Yowan was still very new to martial arts just after a few exchanges. He has the basic movements down, but he does not know how to react to attacks. Chun Mukiem was hot-tempered, but he was still a talented individual who was trained in various teachings. He had many experiences since various teachers had taught him. Martial arts required real-life experience so that the user would know when or what to use under different circumstances. Well, you still have a long ways to go. I underestimated him. What should I do? Chun Yo-won became nervous. His head was filled with various formations of the butterfly blade dance, but he didn't have the experience to choose what to use. I'll look into how you learned martial arts after I crush you. Mukyum then charged in toward Yo-won. At that moment, Yo-won was frantically trying to make a decision. What should I do? What do I need to use? And it was then that Nano's voice came to him. Sensing danger from hostile entity. Activating augmented reality on the user's site to deal with the incoming danger. Activating battle tutorial to start defensive mode. Yo-won's eyes shook quickly while it shined with small light particles. Die! Mukyum's fists attacked and Chun Yo-won tapped to move to the side and punch Mukyum's chin. Arg! Mukyum had not expected an attack, so his head was turned to the side. The fist didn't have any internal energy, but the attack on the chin made him feel dizzy and made him lose his balance. What? This isn't the blade skill. He would have passed out if the fist had internal energy. Mukyum then used his running skill to distance himself. What? His movement changed. Even the students were shocked. They thought Mukyum would finish him with the attack, but this made the situation uncertain. In Yo-won's eyes, everything was very different now. What is this? Augmented reality has been activated to guide Master through the battle tutorial to react to the hostile entity. Yo-won was seeing all kinds of lines and writings over what he was seeing. Even just now, when Mukyum's attack almost got him, he saw footsteps composed with lights and writing that told him to follow it. Yo-won followed it, allowing him to dodge the attack, and then a white arrow appeared on Mukyum's chin with a fist sign, so he followed it. There was no direction, so boxing, one of the martial arts recorded in the program, was applied temporarily for this tutorial. Tutorial? It means guidance. You ordered to tell me what to do. I analyzed the hostile entity's movements to the 0.01 scale and came up with the result. I don't know what you are saying. So, what I just did is boxing. Boxing is one of embedded martial arts in the program and it's okay. If you are using boxing as the tutorial, can you apply it with the butterfly blade dance? The analysis and transfer of butterfly blade dance is complete, so it is possible. Will you apply it? Yeah. Changing tutorial mode to butterfly blade dance. While Chun Yo-won stood still to talk with Nano, Mukyum got up from his dizziness and shouted angrily. You even learned how to use fist techniques? You sure hit a lot like a thief. But it won't work anymore. Mukyum then charged in again with tens of fists. Yo-won saw the fists coming at him along with the directions on where it was all coming from. I can see where he's attacking. Chun Yo-won smiled. He then followed the steps to dodge the attacks. What? He dodged everything? It was hard to believe that Yo-won, who could barely react to the attacks before, was now dodging everything. It wasn't only that Yo-won then attacked back with a powerful blade attack. What? Mukyum quickly turned to defend, but he could only defend 2 attacks. Yo-won's hands flew in like a butterfly and soon got him on the right shoulder. Ugh! Mukyum felt strong pain and blood came up through his throat. If it was an attack with a real blade, he would have been cut down. How can he use such an attack? Yo-won did not have more internal energy than Mukyum, but his attack skill was that of like an experienced warrior. It was all possible because Yo-won's movements were the exact copy of Subming's movements. Mukyum then felt his legs losing energy from the damage. He then came up with the memory. Mukyum, if you do well, the Lord, your father's attention will come back from that dirty B***tch and back to me. It's all because of you. It's all because you are weak. If only that dirty bitch hadn't appeared. Mukyum's mother, Lady Ja, married the Lord Chun Yejong through an arranged marriage. It was a marriage from the oath of the 6 clans, but Lady Ja loved the Lord. She did all she could to win the Lord's attention, but she was never loved back. The Lord's attention was only on the girl slave at the Lord's palace. It's not me. It's all you. It's all because of you. The last memory he had of his mother was Lady Ja choking his own son while sobbing madly. Why am I having that memory again? As that memory came back to him, he learned to hate only one person. Mukyum gritted his teeth with hatred and threw his fist at Yo-won's face. You think I will lose to a peasant like you? Yo-won easily dodged the attack by tilting his head, and although he tried to strike Mukyum's forehead, he changed his mind and grabbed his opponent's wrist to pin him down. Ugh! Mukyum felt severe pain from the back of his head, and his head became red with veins popping out from his neck to his forehead. You dare! I can't lose to a peasant like you. How? Mukium shouted angrily, but Yoan looked down coldly at him and said, You brought it on yourself.